Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Director General, Institute of Strategic Studies, Ambassador Yao, President, PowerChina, and Director, China Studies Center. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good morning. The director of the China Center has given you the objectives of this international conference, what they intend to achieve in these 2 days, the kind of dialogue they have set forth is in front of you, and I'm sure that this would be a very useful exercise that you are beginning this year. And I'm happy to hear that you intend to institutionalize it. That will be very, very useful. The Director General gave you an overview of how he sees things changing globally and regionally, how multilateralism is being pushed into the background, how the economic geography of the region and globally, how it's changing, how the economic rise of China is having an impact on the global economic situation. He's also mentioned how a new boldened approach, as he calls it, and I call it the Hindutva approach, how it has had an impact on a formulation of policy, of thinking, the mindset that we see in the leadership on the eastern side of Pakistan. Hearing what he had to say and the exercise you're getting involved in is reinforcing my point of view that for a transformational foreign policy, as the ambassador put it, it cannot be done alone at the Foreign Office. We need input, and we need input from academia. And I'm grateful to some members of the academia who are helping me understand things better. You need input from the private sector. In this modern corporate world, where economic diplomacy is getting increasing importance, how can you overlook the needs of the private sector? And how can you formulate policy without their input? And the Director General mentioned that I have been supportive of this institute. I should be, obviously. Here is an institution that's funded by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, has potential to contribute. Why shouldn't it be optimally utilized? And the idea is to incorporate the views of people like you and researchers who are doing their work with passion. We in the Foreign Office, a lot of times, are doing day-to-day firefighting. And frankly, this is my second innings at the Foreign Office, and I've learned with time that the average officer working, very competent, very good, very dynamic, does not have time for strategic thinking. He's running from meetings to meetings. So where does the government get that large strategic picture? from institutes like yours, sir. Academia, professors sitting here. That's where the input comes. And that is why it is important to remain engaged with such institutions. The ambassador mentioned a transformational approach. Yes, sir. We need that transformational approach because things are changing. Things are changing in the region. Realignments have taken place, and we have to be cognizant of those realignments. And Ambassador Zhao, I intend to seriously grab the offer that you've made. And ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you that the government of China has offered the old embassy in the diplomatic enclave to the Foreign Office. I intend to take that over, reach an agreement with you, and take it over. And what I visualize is to have a restructured, redesigned Foreign Service Academy shifted over there. You know, it's a proper facility, and we need to have revisit our, what is being taught at the Foreign Service Academy. It's a useful institution. A lot of countries and young diplomats come from different regions of the world, and they benefit from it. So why not upgrade it, restructure it, redesign it, introduce modern courses there. Here is a facility, free of cost. You know, it's a friendly gesture, free of cost. It's being given to the Foreign Office, and I'm shocked that the Foreign Office hasn't moved. For how long now? Perhaps 4 years. Long live bureaucracy. That's the way. I will ensure, sir, I will ensure that it is done, and it is done under my stewardship, and now, inshallah, it will be done. So that we make this institution more effective. The building next door can be given to you for your centers, and multiply them. Multiply your centers. Get academia, get thinking people over, and get their input. Educate us so that we can effectively and in a more potent manner protect Pakistan's interests. The ambassador mentioned in his statement the new Kartarpur spirit of our government. Yes, the spirit is there, but we were responded by the decision on the Barbary Mosque. So we have to live with that reality as well. But I would like to thank the organizers of the international conference for inviting me to speak to you on a subject which is increasingly becoming critically relevant to our region and indeed the world. I want to commend Institute of Security Studies, Chinese Embassy and PowerChina for bringing together such a broad spectrum of scholarship from academia and think tanks of China and Pakistan. These dialogues are critical to cultivating better understanding and synergizing our efforts to benefit from the connectivity and other collaborative initiatives such as the BRI. In the past 6 years, since its launch in 2013, the Belt and Road Initiative has emerged as the single most effective instrument of globalism and international development cooperation. The true potential of the BRI lies in having created an awareness that the world would be better off if we enable each other to attain economic growth and development. No other global initiative can boast of involving more than 4 billion people living in the Asian, European, and African regions and bringing hope of shared prosperity, especially to the countries that are still struggling with their economies. Studies indicate that when completed, the BRI's transport projects alone could reduce travel time along economic corridor by 12%, increase trade between 2.7% and 9.7%, increase income by up to 3.4%, and lift millions of people from extreme poverty. Our region faces 4 immediate challenges. First, the US-China competition and especially the trade-related issues, which can negatively affect global economic stability. Second, US-Iran tensions, which have the potential to trigger unforeseen consequences for world economy and regional peace and security. Third, the instability in Afghanistan, which if not addressed, could continue to negatively impact efforts for durable peace and economic development in the region. And fourth, is South Asia now fated to deal with an overreaching and Hindutva-driven India. As the Director General has mentioned in his welcome remarks, our region is witnessing the emergence of a new economic geography. The BRI has a central role to play in converting this region into one rich in opportunities for economic growth and development. Who would appreciate this more than Pakistan, which is hosting a flagship arm of the BRI called China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. CPEC, a flagship project of BRI, is a transformational project. Completion of CPEC projects is the #1 priority of our government. Many energy and infrastructure projects of CPEC have completed, which have injected dynamism into the process of our economic development. They have also given a boost to our economic growth. In order to fast-track expeditious completion of CPEC projects, we have established a CPEC authority. We have now entered the second phase of development of CPEC, which will mainly focus on industrialization and socio-economic development. We have identified 9 special economic zones to focus on rapid industrialization. These special economic zones have been granted incentives so that Chinese and foreign investors can invest in these zones. Let me make 2 important points here. The BRI CPEC and other such connectivity initiatives are now being recognized as the most potent voice for globalism. At a time when multilateralism is coming under duress, the BRI philosophy tells us that globalism is still relevant and the best hope for humanity. Secondly, we must acknowledge that many of the security-centric problems can find their solution not in kinetic adventures, but in tangible economic collaboration for the common good. We therefore need to make a concerted effort for a paradigm shift away from security-driven agenda and priorities to interdependence and connectivity. The BRI and its associated projects like CPEC can help us make this paradigm shift. While economic and commercial win-win options are being explored under the rubric of the BRI, I would say that equally important would be to complement the effort by forging stronger partnerships, harmonizing policies, and close people-to-people contacts for better understanding. It is in this context that today's international conference assumes special significance. Speaking from Pakistan's perspective, we can never overemphasize the importance that our all-weather strategic cooperative partnership with China occupies in our foreign policy priorities. Pakistan fully recognizes that the increasingly demanding and interrelated security and economic challenges often go beyond the capacity of individual nation states. The states, rich and poor, developed and developing, can only forge ahead if they cooperate. We in Pakistan, therefore, have extended full support to the BRI as an effective implementation mechanism for creating a more balanced, multipolar, inclusive and multilateral architecture for our region and the rest of the world. We have seen that skepticism among certain quarters who perceive the BRI as a political and economic threat. We think it is unwise to perceive this transformational project in a zero-sum perspective. The BRI would link the nations of Eurasia like never before, and in fact, BRI has the potential to convert any potential geo-competition into a positive force for the entire world. Imagine the benefits for the humanity if the two leading economies of the world were to help shape a regional order that can bring regional allies and partner countries to implement a unified economic strategy for the common good of the humanity. Let me conclude by saying that the exclusive focus of global and regional powers on the military and security dimensions of what is happening in Asia will be short-sighted. The BRI and its flagship projects like CPEC offer a ray of hope that inclusive and pluralistic solutions would make our world safer, securer, and more prosperous. I look forward to pursuing the outcome of your discourse in the next 2 days. I wish your deliberations every success. Thank you.